Hello and welcome to the Connection Compass podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Louise Evans. In this space, we explore what it means to live, love and work in ways that feel more connected, more caring and authentically aligned through conversation. This is a podcast about slowing down, listening inwards and choosing a different way forwards, one rooted in awareness, compassion, connection and starting with ourselves. In today's episode, I'm opening season 6 and sharing what's been shaping my work, my energy, and my direction. But before we get started, I just want to let you know that within the podcast, there is information on my new monthly container, Cycles and Seasons, where we learn, grow, transform, connect, and understand ourselves more deeply through nature and the moon cycles, supporting us to create more aligned and authentic choices in life, love, and work. If you're interested and want to learn more, please sign up to the waitlist in the link. The first container will be available soon. The information is within the show notes. Hello, it's Andrea here, opening season 6 of the Connection Compass podcast. It feels like such a long time since I was here last, even though it's only a few weeks ago. And I guess I should say Happy New Year. I hope you have had, a really lovely Christmas or enjoyed the festivities. If you don't celebrate Christmas and you've had some family time, got to do some nice things, and you saw the new year in together. Season 5 of the podcast ended abruptly, and I didn't close the season as I usually would do. I was sick at the beginning of December. I picked up a bug, and I don't often get sick, but it really took the energy out of me, and I really had a hard time trying to catch up with myself with preparing for Christmas, and I ended up making decisions about what I needed to prioritize and just what I needed to let go. And I obviously, when I didn't do that final podcast of the season, I felt completely defeated. And working towards the end of the year really felt like a slow crawl. But I'm back, and I was going to do an episode for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, but it just didn't feel right. And I think as a podcasting host, I don't want to put anything out there that doesn't feel right. I don't think that's a good way to go. No one wants to listen to a podcast where the host isn't invested in the episode. So for me, Christmas was really a gentle container and provided space to go slow, even though I worked quite a lot over the festive period. When I look back over 2025, it was, I would say, a bit of a challenge. I began the year how I ended it, exhausted to the point where I started to worry, to be honest. But in the downtime, I was gathering information and putting together the foundations, values, objectives, and statements of intention for the Connection Compass framework. It really did start to come together. It was almost as if I had the leaves in my hands. I had the bloom, but I was putting in the roots. So working backwards, if you like, which is being a little bit about what the journey with the Connection Compass framework has been about. Nothing has been linear, and lots of pieces coming in that have been like a big jigsaw puzzle. I think a real turning point for me was doing the Priestess Path with Kirsty Gallagher, and I really started to root down into the work and into myself and really started to see myself differently. By the autumn, I had an event that didn't go to plan, and I really hit a low point, and I started to question myself, what I was really doing and whether there was any point to continue with the work with the work of the Connection Compass framework. And it'd been a bit of a year like that where nothing really came together. It was like I was holding grains of sand in my hand and things kept slipping through my finger, and I didn't really have a reason as to why that was happening. But after the October event, I decided to just take a step back and just go inwards. And I'd started a new job in the September, and just to focus on that for the meantime, and still having these moments of self-inquiry, going inwards, using the devotional practice as focal point for the work, and seeing what information kind of came through without any force or pressure. And bizarrely, the more I stopped pushing, the more I surrendered and let go, the answers started to come in. And that reflective time did bring some excellent insights. For example, I was actually doing things that I thought I should be doing and not really what I love doing. I was trying the same approach that I've done for many, many years, not really realizing that something different was being asked of me this time. I was trying to fit the old me, the logical part of me, the strategic thinking part of me into the work when something else was required, something softer. And I couldn't quite get my head around that. And I think that was more to do with just our modern day world and how fast paced it is, and everything's so switched on. I don't know whether anybody noticed, but Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, social media channels were really quieter. But then once we hit Boxing Day, it was just full of sales. And I know people have to get the work out there. It's really, really important. But all of a sudden, it just felt this huge ball of energy just hitting me that I just wasn't ready for, really. I took some time away from the channels. And one of the things that was really painful for me last year was around yoga and teaching yoga. I really love classes. I love teaching people to do yoga, but the classes weren't working out as I'd anticipated, and they were taking up a lot of time in my my energy. And I kept telling myself that it was all part of being a yoga teacher. And I've been a yoga teacher for 9 years now, and we've all had that experience where we have peaks and troughs in classes, and sometimes you just have one student, and it's all part of being a yoga teacher. And I kept telling myself that's what it was about, and you just have to roll with the peaks and troughs. And you do to a degree. And I think what I realized in the reflective period was just how much the peaks and troughs were really impacting me. And actually it was destroying my soul. And when I've done a couple of classes where I've covered for people, and I turn up and there's people there to teach, and I know they get so much benefit out of it. And I absolutely love it. I absolutely thrive in that environment. But in the reflective time, and I realized how much my energy was being taken, that I realized that teaching a weaker class in the way that I was doing wasn't right for me. That was a real bitter pill to swallow. I hadn't really seen that come in, to be honest, but having that knowledge, having that awareness, having that truth of and accepting that truth of what was happening allowed me to think about things a little bit differently and work out how I can continue teaching yoga in a way that is enjoyable and everyone still benefits from that. The other big thing was around late autumn going into the winter. I realized that the Connection Compass framework wasn't actually a piece of work that I led with, that I had this idea in my head that I would take the framework out and teach from the framework, but actually I realized that that wasn't the case. And that was another real low point as well, because I thought I just spent 9 years putting this framework together, and I'm not going to use it in the way that I saw myself using it. However, again, went into that deep reflection, thought about it, and realized that actually it was the foundation, it was the bedrock for everything that I do from here on. And the work that I'm going to continue with in the future will benefit from that foundation being in place. So I think somebody had told me in 2017 I was going to develop a framework, but actually I wasn't going to teach with it. I'm not quite sure I would have gone ahead with it. Which is sometimes why things develop over time. If we really knew where we're going to go or how long it was going to take, we probably wouldn't take that step in the first place. But it's all good. Although it's been challenging, after rest, reflection, I have a new way forwards that feels good. I have everything I need. I've even rejigged a course that I held on Substack called Going Deeper, which was a container about working with the seasons and moon cycles to deepen our sense of connection with ourselves and nature around us so that we can make more aligned choices. So that's been transformed into something called Cycles and Seasons. And my original idea was that it was going to be a community, but I think that there's a step before that. So the Cycles and Seasons is going to actually be a container, a monthly container, self-directed, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those. But if you're interested, if it's already piqued your interest, there is a waiting list sign up form. And once that container is ready and available to you, I can let you know and give you the details what it involves. So I've started 2026 with a lot more energy and excitement than I did in 2025. I've been doing some work with Sarah Stevens, some self-development work, only being more visible. If you remember Sarah, we met her in I can't remember if it was season 4 or season 5 of the podcast, but she's the brilliant PR specialist. And I did have one plan that if I was going to work with anybody this year, it would be, or invest in some self development, it would be with Sarah Stevens. So, observing my energy has also been a key theme of 2025 too. Being careful where I put my energy, noticing where I just feel absolutely drained, what activities are not serving me. And sometimes it's just being aware of the small signs that something isn't right and making a few changes that can make all the difference. It's also been a year 2025 was also a year of being excommunicated by a few people. I'm only presuming it's because of the viewpoints that I hold. And rather than asking me how I came to those viewpoints or to explain them, it was easier for them just to excommunicate me. Something that we see a lot these days in the modern times, to just remove people from the world if they don't agree with you. I think when that happens, you are left in a state of confusion, wondering which bit was the issue. I think it breaks your confidence, but also makes you wary of people as well. I mean, if you ever met the person again that excommunicated you, would you ever be able to trust them ever again? Would you ever be able to feel like you could be your own authentic self? And I think you're left wondering, well, what would I say? What would I not say? And, second guessing yourself, feeling fear and self doubt. And I guess this is a behavior that we've seen many times since 2020, and it's not something that I view lightly. The best thing we can do for people is to allow people to have and be their most authentic self. There is a lot of things that I don't agree with, I don't like in our current world, things that I'm unhappy with. I try and research things, listen to different perspectives, and I only speak about topics when I feel confident I have understood, when I feel that sense of internal groundedness and a sense of peace of where I've arrived. It doesn't mean that I won't change my mind in the future as new information comes in, or new research or new findings come about, or I might read, hear, or see something that changes my perspective. But I think what's really important to say is that I've been a nurse for 28 years. It doesn't matter what work I do now, whether it's in my creative world. What I can't do is ignore where there is a safeguarding issue, a safeguarding concern, or a vulnerable risk to another human being. I'm not going to speak or hide away because somebody doesn't agree with a sentence that I've said, or a small part of what I've said may have been misconstrued. I think for me, I've always been a strong advocate for freedom of speech, and I continue to feel that way. And for me, people can say what they want. I might not like it, but it shows us where people are. It shows us the truth. And we can only deal with the truth and how people are really feeling. And from that truth, we can find solutions or provide the space and allow people to grow, to learn, to develop more. How we react to something is our responsibility alone. But when one side is completely shut down, there's nowhere to go. There's no exchange. There's no relationship development. There's no moving through difficult things. I grew the Connection Compass framework because I really cared about people. I really cared about what people experienced, and I wanted people to have better experiences in life, choices that feel authentically you in life, love and work. I think humans need a lot of care and attention, and more so than we realize. Unmet needs can cause chaos and havoc. We can live far too much in our heads, not listening to that internal intelligence, that inner wisdom, which is why I'm such an advocate for slowing down, connecting to yourself through yoga, self-study, inquiry, connecting to nature so that you get to understand yourself more, your needs, which you may be missing because you're doing things that you feel that you should be doing instead of doing things that you love to do, that you're ignoring the signals that your body is screaming at you, like me and my yoga classes, or you're putting your energy into something that is breaking your soul, and your time is somewhere where it's not being valued. I always say the work of the Connection Compass started with an idea in a flicker of a moment in a workshop. The idea that as humans, we needed something more care, more acknowledgement, more room and space to allow our natural skills and talents to come to the fore, for our workplaces to recognize the skill and talents that people hold, and to nurture and provide opportunity for those skills to expand. But the work was also born out of my own disconnection, of spending far too much of my time doing things that I thought I should be doing and not listening to my own inner wisdom, my own intuition, my own heart and soul. It was also born out of what I experienced and witnessed on the dating scene. A throwaway culture, but not a throwaway culture of the stuff that we buy on a day-to-day basis that we don't really need, but of human beings, of the opportunity to connect, to learn and grow and share with each other, to love, to build a love for yourself that no matter what happens outside of yourself, you remain unchanged. What happens to love and care that has nowhere to go? It's invested in things we don't need. It's invested in ideologies that don't make sense, that create division, lack of understanding and difference, rather than what connects and unites. It goes into all that is ungrounded, unstable and chaotic, that exerts power and control, not just over yourself, but of others too. I've been witnessing a decline, a dismissiveness of our beautiful and complex human nature. I've been witnessing a decline in our structures through policy. It's one of the reasons I get so mad and frustrated with this obsession with all that is surface level driven, instead of paying attention to the depth of who we truly are, our ability to connect and find similarity in our stories we hold that cannot be seen from the outer appearance. And so you may not agree with what I do or what I say. You may want to remove me from your friends list, my work or social media channels, but all I'm guilty of really is just seeing that there's a better way to be, that there is a way to bring more connection into the world, more care, more love, better aligned and authentic opportunities for you and the people around you. regardless of age, background, education, or life experience, and almost certainly without force, control, or pressure. The work of the Connection Compass is a map and a guide to create more connection in the world, but that connection has to start with us. To hold a deeper understanding and connection of ourselves is to listen more intently to our inner world, to build a relationship with ourselves so that we make more aligned and authentic choices with what is true and good for us. This podcast is small, it's independently produced, but it has a big purpose to create a more interconnected world. And then it doesn't matter who I am having a conversation with, that when you listen, if you start the episode thinking, I'm not really sure I'm going to enjoy this, I'm not really sure I've got anything in common with this person, but on that particular day, you choose to listen anyway, and what you actually hear is the exact thing that you need to hear, a word, a sentence, an experience that creates some kind of connection with the person that you didn't think was there. If that happens in every episode, even if it's just one person somewhere in the world, then the podcast is doing its job. So what's next? I think for me, in 2026, will see me working more on a global footprint. I've been invited to take part in the opening and closing of a spring retreat and also doing a session for International Women's Day on connecting to the mind, body and breath for nervous system regulation. And hopefully I'll do more of that through the year and hopefully get to guest speak on some podcasts as well. I will be going back to my roots as a yoga teacher in a way that feels good and nurturing. And I will grow the Cycles and Seasons container, which is a monthly connector to nature, where we grow, develop, heal, and transform through the seasons and the moon cycles. Each month, there's a seasonal soul story to read with meditations and self-inquiry prompts deeper to connect deeper and understanding to yourself more. Each one takes you on a journey from the full moon to the new moon or new moon to the full moon, depending on the time of year. And if you want to know more about that, please sign up to the wait list. The link is within the show notes of this podcast episode. The February container is themed renewal and will be available to you soon. There will also be a coaching offer available from later in the spring. And of course, the growth of this podcast, which I absolutely adore. We have had some incredible episodes and guests on the podcast so far, and I'm happy to say that that will continue. There's so much to do. I want to grow the podcast going forward, work towards video, and find some recognition for my little podcast that has a purpose and a big global mission. In this series coming up, we have Susie Sprigg, the connector, connecting courageous women in business, Harriet Taylor, the empowered goddess retreats author, and international resistant expert, Cam Knight. Oh my gosh, that is an amazing episode. Do not miss that. It's on internal resistance and it is absolutely jaw-dropping. I hardly spoke in that episode. I was just listening to Cam speak with my mouth open. And I have a really quirky story to tell you about that episode too, which I'll share with you at the end of the episode when it comes out regarding my own internal resistance. It's quite funny. JP Horgan, who's a motivational speaker, coach, writer, and podcaster from Next Steps Academy, and where we focus on what grows. And we have Karen Shaw, author of Parenting Magic, on the value of NLP and language when communicating, and Celia Kibler regarding inspiring 10 million parents to stop yelling at their kids to create a better world. And there is so much more I'm really excited to share with you. So please don't forget to tune in and listen. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Connection Compass. If you'd like to hear more about the Cycles and Seasons container, don't forget to sign up to the waitlist in the show notes. If you think this episode will help someone, please leave me a review. And remember to keep talking, keep connecting for a more interconnected world.